Welcome to Synapse Daily. Close your eyes and listen. Imagine the year is 1960. Sputnik's beeping echoes from orbit. Kennedy warns of missile gaps. The world is obsessed with the space race, but beneath the surface of the Mediterranean, a ghost is haunting the halls of European engineering. It is the ghost of Herman Sörgel and his Titan project, Atlantropa. Can you imagine standing on the shores of Marseille in 1960 and seeing the water retreat miles into the horizon, leaving behind nothing but a shimmering, dead salt crust? Not from drought. Not from war. But by design. By human will. We're not talking about draining a lake. We're talking about the forced disappearance of a sea that birthed Western civilization, a sea older than Rome, deeper than myth. In its place? 100,000 square kilometers of new land. A supercontinent called Eurafrica. A dam across the Strait of Gibraltar so massive it would make the Hoover Dam look like a child's sandcastle. And this wasn't science fiction. This was 1960. Engineers were still drafting. Architects were still modeling. And in the shadow of the Cold War, some believed this was the only way Europe could survive. In the late 1920s, as Europe licked its wounds from World War I, architect Herman Sörgel looked at a map and saw not nations, but problems. A continent too small, too poor, too divided. His diagnosis? Europe was starving not for food, but for space and energy. His cure? Geography itself. Sörgel's vision was simple in concept, apocalyptic in scale: dam the Strait of Gibraltar. Drain the Mediterranean. Lower the sea level by 200 meters over 70 years. The result? A continental shelf reborn as fertile land. A new power source. A geopolitical reset. What kind of mind looks at the cradle of the Roman Empire and sees only a potential construction site? A man obsessed not with destruction, but with rebirth. Sörgel wasn't a fascist. He wasn't a communist. He was a utopian technocrat, a believer in peace through engineering. He spent 3 decades refining Atlantropa. By 1952, the year he was found dead in Munich under mysterious circumstances, a hit? An accident? His plans were more than sketches. They were blueprints with calculations, timelines, and budgets. And by 1960? His followers, mostly German and Swiss engineers, were still meeting in secret. In a world split between Washington and Moscow, could Eurafrica be the third pole? A neutral, unified Europe-Africa bloc powered by the very sea it erased? Let's look at the numbers, because Atlantropa wasn't fantasy. It was applied physics. The Gibraltar Dam would stretch 14 kilometers across the strait, 3 times longer than the English Channel Tunnel. It would contain 400 million cubic meters of concrete, enough to build 40 Hoover Dams. It would generate 50,000 megawatts of hydroelectric power, half the world's total electricity consumption in 1960. Construction would take 100 years and employ 200,000 workers across 3 generations. But that was just the beginning. Sörgel also planned a second dam across the Sicily-Tunisia Strait to isolate and further drain the eastern Mediterranean. Below that, the Aegean Sea would become a freshwater lake, shrinking by 100 meters. Istanbul would lose its maritime identity. Athens would sit on the edge of a salt desert. And the engineering didn't stop in Europe. In Africa, Sörgel proposed diverting the Congo River to fill a massive inland sea, irrigating the Sahara, turning Algeria and Libya into breadbaskets. But here's the horror: 400 million people lived along these coasts in 1960. What happens to them? Venice, already sinking, would become a mountain town, its canals dry graves. Marseille, Genoa, Barcelona, their ports miles from water. Alexandria and Beirut, stranded inland, their economies collapsed. Climate collapse: the Mediterranean regulates Europe's weather. Remove it, and southern Europe becomes arid. The Sahara doesn't just stay in Africa, it migrates north. Is a new continent worth the cultural genocide of millennia of coastal civilization? Imagine a fisherman in Sicily, 1960. His grandfather taught him to read the tides. His father taught him the songs of the sea. Now, the tide is gone. The salt crust poisons the soil. His children ask, what was the sea? Or picture a Venetian shopkeeper. She wakes up to find her gondola stranded on dry stone. Tourists no longer come. The city becomes a museum of itself, a monument to a drowned world. Sörgel never lived to see the human cost. But by 1960, climate scientists were already warning, Atlantropa wouldn't just change geography, it would break the climate. The Mediterranean is a thermal regulator. Without it, winters in southern Europe freeze deeper. Summers bake longer. Rainfall vanishes. The Nile Delta, Egypt's breadbasket, collapses without silt from a now stagnant sea. This wasn't just engineering. It was geosuicide. Here's what they don't teach you: the Nazis loved Atlantropa at first. In the 1930s, Sörgel pitched his plan to Berlin. It fit perfectly with their obsession with Lebensraum, living space. But by 1938, they rejected it. Why? Too slow, they said. We need land now, not in 100 years. After the war, Atlantropa resurfaced not as a Nazi dream, but as a Cold War survival strategy. In 1960, with the Iron Curtain drawn, some European intellectuals saw Atlantropa as the only way to avoid becoming a Soviet or American satellite. A united Eurafrica could be neutral, energy independent, and self-sufficient. But the Americans hated it. The Soviets mocked it. And the newly independent African nations saw it for what it was: European imperialism with a hydroelectric facade. By 1965, Atlantropa was dead. Not because it was impossible, but because the world had moved on. And yet, we're doing the opposite today. While Sörgel wanted to drain the sea, we're now building walls to keep it out. Miami pumps billions to fight rising tides. Venice's MOSE project lifts barriers against the Adriatic. Bangladesh builds floating cities. Are we living in Sörgel's dream in reverse? Instead of conquering nature, we're retreating from it? And here's the ghost that still haunts us: what if he was right about one thing? That humanity must reshape the planet to survive. But the lesson of Atlantropa isn't about engineering. It's about hubris. The belief that a single mind, however brilliant, can redesign the earth without destroying the soul of its people. So the next time you stand by the Mediterranean, listen. Beneath the waves, Herman Sörgel is still whispering, what if we just let it go? If you could rewrite geography, would you? Or is some beauty too sacred to touch? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this journey into the lost futures of the Cold War. This is Synapse Daily.